Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Mindful Merseyside, a brand new podcast brought to you by the Institute for Health Research at Liverpool John Moores University. I'm your host, Gemma, and I'm here with the two people that came up with the whole idea for this podcast, Kathy Montgomery and Pooja Saini. Hi.
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 So I thought it might be nice to start by just getting you two to kind of introduce yourselves and just say what you do here at the university.
Hi, yes, I'm Pooja Saini and I'm a lead researcher for suicide prevention.
And Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Montgomery. I'm head of the Institute for Health Research at Liverpool John Moores University, and my research encapsulates inequalities in healthcare ranging from substance and alcohol users all the way through to uptake of different health promotion schemes.
And what is Mindful Merseyside, the podcast, going to be all about? What can people expect?
So what we really want to do in this podcast is to give you an overview of health-related topics that are important for the people of Liverpool. So we know in Liverpool that we have a number of health inequalities, which are disparities in health and care across different regions based on socio-economic status and different intersectional characteristics. And we know that areas of really high deprivation have very specific health needs. So this podcast really encapsulates the type of unique problems that areas like Liverpool might face and how we're working with the people of Liverpool to try and mitigate a lot of these health inequalities.
And Pooja, what kind of subjects are we going to be covering in this series?
So we're going to be looking at suicide prevention, substance misuse, issues related to pre-birth conditions, heart conditions, and many more.
And why do you think that those particular topics were important to include?
I think these are health topics that we are all affected with every day in our everyday lives. And it's really useful for people to know how maybe they can prevent some of these health issues in their lives as well. And that's what we're hoping will be one thing that people can take away from this podcast series.
So these are all issues that we've all heard about on the news or read about. Why is it going to be important for people to listen to this series, Kathy?
So Liverpool is an area of very high social deprivation. So across the country, I think we're ranked as the third most deprived area. And what this means is that we have many more people living in poverty than some more affluent areas. And this is really, really important because in areas of higher poverty, you're more likely to have higher proportions of people that have complex health needs. But within those areas as well, you have cuts to those services. So actually, there's fewer services to treat the needs of the local populations. There are other things which might be related to this as well. So service opening times, access to transport and childcare, and characteristics like ethnicity, gender, people from inclusion, health groups, and, for example, people that are homeless are really the most at risk of experiencing all of these inequalities. So in terms of why this is important for the population of Liverpool is that we have great need in our communities to understand and respond to these particular healthcare concerns.
So we're going to be discussing work being led across the Liverpool City region, as you've mentioned, especially related to the high levels of deprivation and how this increases health inequalities and what services are being implemented to combat these issues. How is this work going to apply to people outside of the Liverpool City region, Pooja?
Well, some of the things we learn in this region can then be replicated in other areas and hopefully help other similar population groups. But one thing I think is important to add is many of the services that are designed with people who are probably from more affluent backgrounds or from particular populations such as white groups, simply because they participated in the research more. So in that way, we can ensure that services that are being provided in areas like Liverpool can be replicated in other areas with greater need.
And we've mentioned some of the topics that we're going to be discussing, but throughout the series, Kathy, what kind of people are we going to be hearing from?
Okay, so throughout the series, we'll be hearing from people with lived experience in these particular areas. So they're people who have, lived through a particular situation, for example, alcohol drinking, or a particular chronic condition, for example, cardiovascular pathology, or somebody who might have undergone treatment for suicide and self-harm. And we'll be hearing from these people with lived experience because the people who the services are designed for are the people who really matter when we're designing services. And if somebody's going to work, we really value the these experts by experience. In addition to this, there'll be obviously the academics that we have working with the experts by experience to really design person-based solutions for a lot of the complex health needs that we have in the Liverpool City region. So while the work we're doing is obviously really based on the local needs of our population, what we like to do as well is, look at the national picture and the international picture. Merseyside, Liverpool, is not the only place that has these health inequalities based on its socio-demographic profile. And this research really has global implications, in particular, looking at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals of health and well-being, reducing inequalities and eliminating poverty. All of our work is really relevant outside the UK, across other areas where there are really disparate health inequalities.
So throughout this series, we'll be hearing from different groups of people, such as Soberistas, who are online community for people who are abstaining from drinking alcohol. We'll be speaking to families with young children who've got congenital heart disease. We'll be speaking to children and young people with lived experience of suicidal ideation, people who've been bereaved by suicide, such as the Three Dads Walking. We'll be speaking to Louise Newson, who'll be talking about menopause and health-related issues, and many more people from across different health groups.
I think what's really nice about this podcast is it's not necessarily a series where you have to listen to every single episode. And some people definitely will, because they're important, interesting subjects. But some of these subjects are really going to resonate, like you mentioned, the menopause there. Some of them will really resonate more with some people than others. Having said that, these are subject matters, though, that maybe people should be encouraged to listen to, whether they think that they're relevant to them or not. As an example, it's been mentioned a few times before that menopause is a subject that really men should be educating themselves on, because whether it's your mum, whether it's your sister or your partner, or at some point your daughter, everybody is going to experience menopause, whether it's to themselves or somebody that they care about. So I think it's a really nice way of people educating themselves on different subjects, even if it's not necessarily relevant to their life. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. I'd agree with that. And I think there's many health areas that you just don't think are going to happen to you. And then all of a sudden you're faced with that issue in your life, and a little bit more knowledge on it can be really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of these episodes are really going to empower people to be able to support somebody if they are going through something. And you are going to learn a lot of information and ways that you can help somebody who is dealing with one of the issues that we're discussing in these episodes.
I also think it'll be really good for people to see that what we're doing in universities and in academia and research, how it's implied in real life, and how we actually, use the findings to create new services and involve people in creating them.
So as a general thing, what would you like people to take away from listening to these podcasts? Kathy, I'll start with you.
So I guess one of the things that we'd like people to take away from this series of podcasts is that we really rely on the expertise of individuals with lived experience in these areas to be able to improve health and care. And without these people, we wouldn't be able to do this. So one thing is a message to people that we really value your input, and the services are, need to be designed around the needs of people actually living in the areas that are using them. Another thing we'd like to take away, so many of the podcast episodes will also have, snippets of health promotion messages. So about how we use behaviour change techniques to improve health and care in a range of different conditions. And I think that understanding how you can make very small changes in your lives, like potentially reducing the amount of alcohol that you're drinking, these type of things are things that we can all take on board, I think, to really improve our health.
Absolutely. And Pooja, what about you?
I think with the line of work I work in, I think I want people to take away some hope and, some positivity that you can actually get better, you can improve. And hopefully from hearing from people who've gone through these experiences, they can learn about their recovery and feel really positive about the future.
In this series, there'll be episodes on 10 different health topics, as we've just discussed. And we really hope that you find them interesting, helpful and empowering.